Well, hello there, and welcome back to Gene and Roger Talk Movies. You know, this
It's just us two this
it's
time.
just us two this time. And normally, our podcast, right, we're all about spoiling the heck out of these movies. We don't give any spoiler warnings ever because that's just the kind of guys we are. But I'm going to give you one today because the movie we're talking about is Talk to Me, and
Yeah,
it's currently playing in the
it's in
theaters.
theaters now.
So here's your spoiler warning. We're going to ruin the movie for you if you haven't seen it. So go watch
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna
Come
talk
back.
about it in depth.
So, Gene, playing in the theaters right now. Talk to me. Initial
Yeah,
thoughts.
talk to me. Well, as you know, if you've been listening to our little show, I'm a big A24 fan, and Talk to Me is an A24 production. So good
Well,
job,
they, actually,
A24.
they're the distributors. I think. I don't think they produced this one.
Yeah, distributor. I think that's what they are for everybody. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's one of their distributions, and so I like these movies. You know, they're well thought out. So, you know, they distribute movies that kind of maybe fit within their criteria. You know, so it's good. It's creative. It's original. I mean, as original as anything can be, right? Because everything is like redone. And I mean, watching this movie, I saw influences of another really good horror movie called Autopsy of Jane Doe, which kind of deals with possession and like the characters lose track of what really is reality. You know, they think that something is happening, but it's really not. You know, but you know, so this movie delves definitely into that. And so, you know, so it's a good time. The movie's definitely has it's falls into the genre of like gross horror. So if you're a real squeamish person, this movie may not be for you. But Talk to Me is it's good. It's not, doesn't have like cheap jump scares, which are prevalent in a lot of like movies, horror movies, but it's entertaining. You know, it's like in the movie theater, I was sitting like 2 seats away from this other, you know, audience patron, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, it's 2023, and you know, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy was talking throughout the movie, and he had his phone on, and part of the movie he must have dropped something because he turned his flashlight on. But even with all those distractions, this movie was still great, you know. And so in a way, it kind of made the movie sometimes even better because this movie's all about, you know, teens, wild teens, you know, which reflect the producers. You know, the producers are these two guys, are brothers, Danny and Michael Philippou, and they're only 30 years old, and they're just like crazy kids. You know, they have this Australian YouTube channel, and I actually looked at it. It's called Raka, and they have like 6.7 million subscribers, and you know, they have all these shows. They do these like live action shorts, you know, and then there's this horror comedy. And I just, by random, I did this one called Ronald McDonald versus Burger King from 2014. And it's funny, some of the guys in that short are in this movie, you know, and so like they're just got their buddies together and got somebody to finance them, and they threw this thing together, and it's really good.
Well,
And that little short was funny. It was good.
doing your research there,
Yeah,
Gene. I
yeah,
didn't do as much research as you about these two guys, but the film,
It's good.
you know, the basic premise for those that haven't seen it yet, there's this mummified ceramic coated hand that apparently has some connection to the other world, and you can channel spirits through it if you grasp
Right.
onto the hand and then basically say, talk to me. You see the spirit then that's
You
connected to it.
see people that have died.
And then it's what is it? I let you in or something
Yeah,
like that.
let me in.
Yeah, let me in, and then they possess you for 90 seconds or less. There's this cool little piece there where, yep, we've got to time you now. They're in. You've got 90 seconds, and then we've got to get the hand away from you, and then blow this candle out, and then the door is closed, and the spirit
Right.
is
Yeah.
out.
So the sequence is like there's these two characters. It's like all high school kids, right? And this movie, to me, it seems like there's like, I'm all about into themes, right? So it seems like to me that the theme of this movie is all about like youth, you know, like I think in a way like youth without supervision or guidance oftentimes can create your own reality. And I think that's what's happening here, is that these kids have found this hand for some reason. Yeah, and like Roger said, it's like, but there's a process. Like you put the hand in front of you, and then somebody on the other side of the table lights a candle, and they said opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put your hand to like shake the hand of the ceramic hand. And then you say, talk to me. And then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, you can see a dead person sitting on the other side of the table. You can just see them just like they're right there. And then if you say the words, let me in, then all of a sudden that person can possess you. And I guess in their experience in doing this thing, they found out that you can't really go more than 90 seconds, right? Because the bad things happen. And so they time them. And at the end of 90 seconds, they blow the candle out. Session's over.
Well, and I think this movie is pretty smart because obviously there's a clear parable with the current fentanyl addiction process, right? You've got to let that in, and then because the Mia is the primary protagonist, and she really likes that spiritual thing, and so she keeps doing it and keeps doing it and keeps doing it.
She's the main character, right?
And very similar to like the drug addiction crisis and things like that. So you can make some connections there as to some underlying potential themes. But to me, again, this is another movie where the bigger theme is unresolved grief, because the Mia character's mother committed suicide 2 years prior. She has fallen away from her father, a primary support person, because of this suicide, and is really still in the grief stage and doesn't really know how to get rid of it.
Hasn't resolved because the father, she feels that the father hasn't been forthcoming, and he hasn't been with what happened on the night where the mom, committed suicide. Like Mia, she even thinks that maybe something else happened. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely unresolved grief. And so Roger says the theme of the movie is that, I kind of go back to like maybe the youth without guidance, because one of the big themes of this movie also seems to be that kind of the movie hits you right away because the kids are at this huge party, and then all of a sudden you notice this kid, he's got lesions on his back, and then I think his brother is trying to help him out, and then he stabs him, and then this kid who stabs him all of a sudden stabs himself, and the movie right there is really shocking, and all of a sudden that this movie is different, and it's going to probably take you places. But then one of the following scenes is that we see this mother, Miranda Otto. We all know her from the Lord of the Rings movies, and she has a very troubled relationship with her kids. It's very untrustworthy. They don't trust each other. She keeps asking them the same questions. She clearly doesn't trust him. There's no father figure in the house. Although it doesn't really resolve why there's no father figure there. Yeah. But to me, that really struck me is, I guess, this is like when you watch movies, like in Roger, it kind of hit him as like the Mia's addiction. But for me, watching this movie, I'm kind of hit by the lack of trust between the parents and the kids. And then the kids really are living their lives without any supervision. And they're kind of creating their own little worlds. And this hand helps them to create that world.
Well, and the other thing I like about it, too, is the title, Talk to Me. Because there's a key sequence near the third act where the father does finally actually talk to his daughter about what really happened that night. And, boy, had that conversation happened 2 years prior when the mom had died, would Mia be heading down the road she was? Probably not.
Probably not, right. But all this time, and her doubts have percolated, and the father is sharing a suicide letter that the mother wrote. But 2 years later, I mean, come on, what's wrong with you? But the daughter doesn't believe it.
Right, because by that time, and this is one of the cool parts of the film, too, because you're getting these spirits coming into you. There's a younger boy. I don't know how old this younger boy is.
Riley. His name's Riley, the son of the Miranda Otto character. Mm-hmm. But I catch about 15 maybe.
Yeah, and so
maybe 14.
Mia is kind of crashing for the most part with that family because the relationship with the dad is so poor. Right. And so it's kind of a brotherly, sisterly kind of thing going on there. And when they do this big party where everyone's going to do the hand and get possessed, of course, the 15-year-old wants to participate in that.
Right. And the sister says no. She really tries to
Mhm.
stop Riley from participating. But then everyone is like, oh, come on, you can do it. How about we just do for 50 seconds?
Mhm.
And then she relents. The sister relents. She
Yeah,
does
and
it.
then
But then the Riley gets possessed, but then he gets possessed by Mia's mom.
right, which is a really great scene there because you can see the dead person, but only you can see it. Only the person who's got their hand on the hand,
Right.
and he looks at me and says, "I'm sorry," and then it's his mom or her mom, and then that creates an additional layer of distrust then between Mia and her father, as this entity kind of turns into maybe it's not really your mom.
Right. Because doesn't the quote unquote the mom, the dead mom through Riley, say that, I didn't kill myself?
Mm-hmm.
She says things like that, and then she tries to say that I think she's just comes out and says is that the husband's lying. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And so I love that because there's this small piece of dialogue in there right before this is kind of coming down where they're talking about how these spirits actually can read your mind. And so here's this big party going on where everyone, one after the other, is taking these spirits on.
right,
And this spirit quite possibly wasn't ever the mother anyway, but it had read the mind. And now I'm in, and now I'm going to possess you, Mia, really,
right, right,
with all this false information because the demons or the spirits or whatever, they're all evil and they all have an end game.
right. And this is where like Mia like really blows it. Like in the trailer, you read trailers for movies, but it says like the kids are playing with this demonic force and they take it too far. And here is where Mia, and this is the point where it goes too far, is that Mia sees her mom in Riley, and instead of cutting it off at 50 seconds, no, she goes a full 2 minutes, way over 90 seconds. And so then Riley is like possessed now, and so he's slamming his head against the table, a skull fracture.
Extremely brutal scene.
Yeah.
Earns the R rating right there.
Right. You watch that, you're just aghast. Right. It's just unbelievable. But then Riley has to go to the hospital. There's just so much guilt there. But then Mia kind of takes all this home, and then she goes to her house. She has the scene with her dad. And then she thinks that she sees her mom in her bedroom, and there's this whole scene where Mia really starts to lose her grip on reality, and this whole thing is like reminds me of, I said earlier, Autopsy of Jane Doe, which kind of explores that, like what's real and what's reality. And she kind of sees that this person is attacking her that looks like her dad but is clearly dead, and then her mom is right there, and she gets a pair of scissors and she stabs him.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see it coming. But who does she actually stab? She stabs her real dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that goes on where what's really happening. I think this movie sets it up really well with that sequence with the dad because the camera cuts back to dad. The real dad is actually down in the living room. And then here's this other thing that appears to be her dad up in the bedroom.
Pounding on the door.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is not happening because the dad is downstairs not hearing anything. Right. So all this is happening. This is crazy scene. She's in a room and there's loud and the mom's
whatever that entity is throwing her around.
Right.
She's smashing off the...
Right. She picked her up and threw her. Yeah. So you'd think the dad would run up there and hear all this noise, but no, because none of it is really happening.
Right.
It's all in her mind.
All in her mind, yeah. But that's the thing I like, too, where the entities... Because that's the other story is like, if you leave it in too long, it's going to possess you and you're going to start seeing other things. They set that up right at the beginning with the murder-suicide or attempted murder-suicide sequence with the two brothers there where, he kept seeing these spirits, and kept seeing them.
Right.
And so now here's Mia going through the same thing, but this spirit is claiming to be her mother and is leading her down continued deception, really, of what's really going on to try to pull you kind of learn as you go along what these spirits really are trying to do. There's a beautiful scene where the young boy Riley is just mangled, and every time he comes out of his kind of comatose state, he tries to do more damage to himself.
Right, right. And we kind of find that why this is happening, because it's kind of Mia kind of, in a way, she's really desperate to help out Riley. So she grabs the hand, and she kind of tries to find Riley in that world. And she's successful. And she sees Riley as he's like lying down, and then all these dead people are like touching him and grabbing him. And then Riley is just in torment, utter torment. And that kind of explains why as soon as he comes to life in the real world, he just wants to kill himself.
Yeah. Well, and Gene, the immediate thought I had when they showed that little quick snippet, a movie you just love and love dearly, Event Horizon, when they were looking at the footage of all the craziness going on. Very reminiscent of that footage there, and really an off-putting scene, because most of the film is, it's a little ghost and it's an evil ghost and spirit and this and that. And then suddenly, nope, here you are basically in hell being tormented.
Yeah. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, that could be a vision of hell. It's like your people are all over you and they're not going to let you alone ever.
And causing you tremendous pain.
Causing you pain. Yeah. Yeah, and the movie goes on, and so does it end well? No. Doesn't end well. So, yeah, Mia ends up, I just go to the end, and she is convinced she has to kill Riley. Her mom tells her she has to kill Riley, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the other interesting, if you really pay attention to the dialogue a lot, because earlier, one of the teens who was a little bit more familiar about this was like, if you die while you're possessed, they have you forever. And so then now here later is this scene where you're like, okay, this is clearly not her mother, or her mother is a super evil spirit who is basically saying, oh, no, the only way to get him out of this is you got to kill him.
Right.
Which then, of course, would, you're going to be theirs forever then if you do that. And so she has this dilemma. I don't know how much of a dilemma it is, because she pretty much bought into the idea that she's got to kill this guy.
Yeah, she believed it. And then there's high tension because she takes that pair of scissors, still covered with Dad's blood, into the hospital where Riley is trying to recover. And then there's an earlier scene where the mom and her have it out, kicks her away from her family, but then she's apologetic later. And then she leaves the room, and then so she leaves Mia and Riley alone. So as there's an audience we're watching, we just think, oh, Mia's going to kill this kid, Yeah.
Well, and I also liked, because they, very early on in the film, there's like this dying kangaroo on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And so they
it adds to the creepiness factor.
Do a little callback there with the kangaroo. I did love the fact that, by the way, we're in Australia here with our little movie, because here's a kangaroo.
There's a kangaroo got hit by a car. Yeah.
This podcast originates from Alaska, where, we see that, but we usually see a moose. And usually there's another destroyed vehicle right nearby.
When a moose hits a car,
lot of people hurt.
It's not a happy thing.
But yeah, if creepy kangaroo, who would have thought? It sets the tone real well.
Yeah, and then the kangaroo appears in the hospital. Of course, it's all in her mind. And then but then also to get alone with Riley, Mia plays a trick on Riley's sister, kind of draws her away from the hospital. And then Riley's sister realizes that she's been tricked, and she calls her mom and tells her she's got to go back to that operating room. Mia's dangerous. Yeah. So she goes back there, and lo and behold, nobody's in there. But Mia's taken Riley, has put Riley in a wheelchair. It's going to throw him off in front of the traffic on this highway. And so the movie cuts away, and so it ends up that who ends up on the highway? It's Riley on the highway. And there's a scene, you're inside of a car with two people that you just don't know. And they clearly hit something, and it's, first of all, you think it's Riley, because Mia's about to throw Riley off this precipice. But it's actually, they're hitting Mia. Yeah, and then you look at Mia on the highway, and then she wakes up. And then, you know, this whole lot of movies I've gone into this, like what could the world be after you're dead? And the movie kind of, you know, has a little vision of that, because it's, Mia doesn't look incredibly injured, but yeah, she's dead. When she hit that car, she
No,
was killed.
she's got some cuts on her face and stuff like that.
But it like her
Not
destroyed.
doesn't look like Riley by any means.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was completely destroyed.
Yeah, yeah. And so it seems also going back to that, because then when Mia comes back, she walks back to the hospital, and, you know, time gets a little weird here, because, you know, that she looks in, she goes outside, and she's outside of Riley's room, and Riley is, it looks like he's about to leave the hospital. He looks completely recovered. He looks like he's back in his right mind. It's like maybe there's, I don't know, do you say that maybe this possession ends after a certain time, or?
Well, they
You
had
know.
said that. Remember, they said earlier in the film, they said, because they tracked down the older brother of the
Right,
guy who
right, they
killed him.
did.
Said,
They met him at a bus
yeah,
stop, right?
They said, no, you just have to wait it out sometimes. And so maybe that's what happened there. But maybe it was also that the whole plan all along was really just to get Mia. And the way to get Mia to off herself was, we're going to just really torment this kid who you legitimately loved and were treating as a brother. We're going to possess this kid to such an extreme that really your only avenue is to kill yourself.
So you think Mia, kind of, it's good to talk about a movie like this, but so you think Mia threw herself off at the very end
I do.
to try to save Riley?
I do, because
Yeah.
she had already been set up as, I can't even kill a suffering kangaroo on the
No,
street.
she can't do anything. Yeah,
How, and then she tried, okay, I've got the scissors. I'm going to kill Riley right now.
she couldn't do it.
No, I'm going to put him in a wheelchair for some reason
Right.
and take him away.
Wheel him down the street. Yeah,
And there's this interchange between the entity that is claiming to be the mother and Mia, and Mia's got her hands on the wheelchair and all this stuff. Traffic's racing back and forth, and then the next scene is, apparently,
Yeah, I
Mia
like that.
has
I like that,
thrown
Roger.
herself,
I like that. She probably did.
and then it then fits with the very end sequence of the film where she is walking through this hospital, which is really just kind of fading away from memory as
Right.
she's heading towards this.
The lights are turning off as
right.
she's going down the hallway.
Mhm. And then she sees this light source, little tiny light source, heads towards it, which of course, we all know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, right, right. Which is so ironic. Yeah, she goes there, and she's in a party, and somebody has touched the hand and has said, "Talk to me."
Yep.
And she's talking to a young teen. It seems like he's speaking Portuguese or
Yep,
something.
it was
Yeah.
definitely the hand made it somewhere else for sure. Some
Yeah,
other
definitely
country.
time had passed. So, because like Riley was so messed up, it would have taken months for him to get to the point where he's
Right.
about to leave the hospital.
Look normal, yeah. Yeah.
So this is months had passed.
And so it's got a really nice ending to it, but really there's a lot of these themes playing through it. I do still prescribe to the theme of like this can be an allegory for drug addiction. She gets a little taste of it. All these kids were getting a taste of it.
Right.
And they kept at it until you go too far. And in the case of drugs, you're addicted and dying, ODing, whatever.
Mhm.
Very similar trajectory here. But it's a really smart movie and lots of different things to talk about. It's not a pleasant horror film like a rah-rah, fun, chasey kind of movie like a slasher movie or something like
No,
that.
not like
it's
that.
much more in line with what you would expect from A24, The Witch, Hereditary, that kind of feel, but really well done.
Yeah, yeah. You walk away from the movie knowing that it's entertaining for sure, but it's definitely like leaves you a little like disturbed,
And the only other thing
which is I think a hallmark of good horror.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing I'll point out, and this could just be me, but for those of you that saw the original version of Mad Max with the Australian, or in America, if you saw Mad Max when it played in America, you may have noticed that Mel Gibson nor any of the other cast sound like they really sound, because that video or that movie had been dubbed by American International Pictures because they believed that Americans would not be able to follow the dialogue because of the thick Australian accents, right?
Sure.
I have to admit, there's a couple pieces of dialogue I missed because of the thick Australian
accents
in
yeah,
this
there
movie.
is. I got the same thing. I was wishing, it'd be kind of nice if I had little subtitles.
There
I'm
were a
missing that.
couple lines there, and one of the lines I know was important, but it was lost. I just
Right.
couldn't catch it. But just a thing to be aware of that sometimes, I don't know, you just can't understand exactly what they're saying, and it's because of their accents.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good enough. I mean, for me, it's a solid recommendation. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
in spite of the accents, it's great. And in spite of the dude 2 seats away from me, trying his best to be super distracting, I'm still into it. It's
Well,
great.
and I'm going to back up what Gene just said. So I went to like an early show of this, and it's just me in the theater, and then one other person comes in. Where does that guy sit? Right behind me. It's like,
How creepy is that in a horror movie?
Yeah, I know.
Empty theater, 100 seats.
So yeah, so it actually ratcheted up the tension in my little
Right,
theater.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe Roger gets a knife.
That's right. So, but well worth your time to go see it at the theater. I think this is the type of horror film that is, it's unique. It's a unique presentation. It's different than what Hollywood normally churns out.
Yeah, it's different.
And well worth giving them our money.
All
Right?
right.
Because these are the types of movies we really want to see as far as horror. It's always nice to have a, Friday the 13th movie or whatever. But here you're getting into really thought-provoking horror, well filmed, well done, well acted. Storyline's good. I love the fact that they don't really explain the hand very much.
No, they
which
don't.
is
Where's
great.
its source? Where's it come from?
Yep.
No, they don't explain that
Yeah,
at all.
there's no.
They don't even attempt to.
Well, because they had the ability to do it, right? Oh, the kid just freaked out, smashed his face all apart. And so what would the next scene be in an American or the American remake maybe? Oh, Mia goes to the library and is researching this hand.
Yeah, there you go.
And
Yeah.
no, you don't have any of that. And that really adds to just the uniqueness of this film where here it is, it's just works. We're not explaining it. Off we go.
Rolling with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was really good. Gene, any final thoughts?
I've heard there's going to be a Talk to Me Part 2. So, and it's funny, check out these YouTube videos because these guys, these 30-year-old guys, these producers, the Philippou brothers, they are just like, they're both like 19. And it's just like genius can come from anywhere. So, more power to you.
Yeah, and I did hear about the potential sequel. I'm not sure if I'm on board with that idea. Hey, you guys, do another original, unique film.
Right.
Or you've got something in your back pocket that's just really going to make a part 2 of this really something. But I don't know. I think this should just be a one and done kind of standalone.
I don't know.
Cool
You like
idea.
sequels. There was Pearl, X, and
Yeah.
they're going to make, what is the next
Maxine, which
Maxine,
I'm definitely looking
see?
forward to.
one?
But
Those are 3 right there.
they're also so dramatically different in what they are, right?
Right.
Just dramatically different and just unique to themselves. Do I also like Friday the 13th Part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8? Yes, I do, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I look at a movie like Talk to Me where that's at a different level quality-wise than your usual run-of-the-mill. We're just going to churn out as many Friday the 13th as we can.
Right.
And don't corrupt it by making a sequel that somehow cheapens what the original was. Do a different movie that's also scary.
Yeah. But maybe the sequel would be great.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
The Bride of Frankenstein, of course, super awesome. You got your Godfather 2s, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But-
was it Chucky? Bride of Chucky?
Bride of Chucky is
Bride of Chucky
the fourth
was,
one,
didn't suck.
which was awesome.
Bride of
Love
Chucky
that
was
one.
good.
It's my favorite one.
Yeah, well, there you
But
go.
Gene, next week we're actually kind of doing a special episode. I'm going to call
Yeah,
it. We're
yeah.
going to, William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, just passed away this week, and so we're dusting off The Exorcist. We're going to watch it again for.
Yep,
Well, I don't know the last time you saw it, but it's been
I was a
probably
kid. Yeah,
probably
been a
7
while.
or 8 years since I've watched that one.
For me,
so-
it's pushing probably 30.
30 years. Okay, so we'll be watching that and doing that one, and I can guarantee that one will be happening next week.
Exorcist.
We've mentioned Talk to Me a couple weeks in a row before we actually got around to it, but Exorcist is definitely next. And I think that's all we got. Anything else?
No, I got
No.
nothing.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next week with The Exorcist. Bye. Oh, go see Talk to Me at the
Yeah,
theater.
yeah, go see
for
it.
sure. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.